Okay, let's get started. I'm actually not the star of the show today. I have a guest. Today is all about forecasting and what is it that makes forecasting the best form of biz advisory. And I'm going to be introducing and bring on very soon our special guest from today, my good friend Kathy Gregory. I've known Kathy for, well, let's find out. Kathy, welcome. Hello. How long have we known each other now?
Oh gosh, since 2016, I believe.
I think it probably is. I think you're right. Yeah, we probably met somewhere in the US, probably at QB Connect or something, I would guess. Yeah, it's going back a while. And well, I brought Kathy onto the show because biz advisory is a big thing right now, a big buzzword. Everyone's talking about advisory. Kathy is, I believe, the expert, the best person I've come across that teaches advisory. And so we've done lots of things together. We've run business advisory training courses over the last few years that have been great fun and been great to have for me to hear all the wonderful things that Kathy does and teaches around advisory. So Kathy, do you want to just kind of introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of a flavour of your background, and then we'll get into the content?
Yeah, happy to. My name is Kathy Gregory. I work for Palo Alto Software, maker of LivePlan software. I came to Palo Alto Software in 2016. And the reason I came to Palo Alto Software is it was kind of fortuitous. My background is in financial forecasting and modeling. So modeling small business financial models and then keeping projections alive for those small businesses. And also in business process design. So I spent a whole bunch of time in my past working in service organizations, not accounting firms, actually engineering companies that rely on business process and use lean as part of what they do to produce what they produce. Those types of organizations are a blend of service and, they produce a tangible thing, but they are quite a bit a service group. An engineering firm is a service group. So they weave their labor into this lean process that they do, and they attend to their labor in the same way they attend to the inventory they pull to build a thing. It's a resource. They have to keep it lean, and they have to manage for waste, and they have to build a good product. Part of the product they build has labor in it. And so I brought that was deep in my background to do this business process design. And when I came to Palo Alto Software, what they were looking to do was really message LivePlan as an advisory product to accountants wanting to do business advisory. Because here in LivePlan, we have a product that is a strategic planning product. It does financial modeling. It holds a financial forecast. And it allows you to do this monthly iterative work in one sense, a strategic way, but also in a way that really month to month manages for profitability and cash. So how can an accountant do that every month in a cyclical way, be scalable, be profitable for themselves? And so all of kind of my background came together to produce a business process for that and then teach how to use LivePlan to do this work.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction. And so I know that one of the things Kathy will be covering later is we'll have a little bit of a look at the LivePlan and also watch this space, but there's a big event coming up soon that Kathy's going to tell you about, an event they're running in just a few weeks' time all around business advisory. So we've got that to come on to. But first, as we go through the session today, if you've got questions for Kathy as she's talking, please do, and some of you know this already, put it in the comments box and put QQ in front. So a couple of you have asked questions already. Let me just think, who was it asked? So Lisa's asked a question and put QQ in front. So that's what you do if you've got a question for Kathy or even for me, just put QQ and I'll be looking for those and we'll read them out at some point. I'll let Kathy let me know when she wants to deal with any questions that have come in. And so I can see Kim's asked a question as well right now. We'll get onto that, Kim, sometime soon. But let's get into the content first. Let's learn a little bit about forecasting and why it's a great way to get into and do business advisory. So do you want to take it away, Kathy?
Yeah, I've got various types of information to share. I want to share with you a little about some research that we do every year that to our small business ecospace. to share with you what small business owners say and take their pulse. We take their pulse every year. I want to show you a little bit in LivePlan. I want to show you about why forecasting is such a great advisory service. So I'm going to do that in a combination of slides because they hold information, and then LivePlan. So we'll kind of switch back and forth. So we can go to slides right now, Mark, and I want to share just some research and a little bit about why we have this research. So we are Palo Alto Software. Palo Alto Software makes LivePlan. And LivePlan is used by accountants and other types of tradespeople who offer business advisory services. It's also used directly by small businesses to build business plans and do work. So we have a pretty big ecosystem of users. And so we take advantage of that. And every year we survey them. We survey small businesses every year to get their pulse and find out where they are. And we ask them lots of questions. But the information that I bring always to accountants is, where are they now and how do they feel? What is their confidence level? And what are they looking for in expert help? That's really the primary question. How are you feeling now? What is your confidence level going forward? And if you could have expert help, what is it? We always want to understand that. So, this year was obviously special because of the pandemic. So we always take pulse about challenges. What are your challenges this year? But because it was the pandemic year, we obviously just addressed that in, special questions. So what are the challenges that small business owners faced during the pandemic? And I don't think sales is too much of a surprise, but when we offer a wide variety of things, sales, maintaining their forecast, maybe their supply chain, team morale in this very scary 2020 year when we asked the question, navigating guidelines we put because we knew that was the big thing. But look where maintaining forecast sits in their response. Second, and only just very closely behind sales. So it is up there. And this never is a surprise. Maintaining forecast is always the thing small business owners tell us they struggle with. Because it's a trade skill they don't have. And it isn't because they don't know, it isn't because they don't understand how to make projections. They're actually pretty good at that. What they don't understand are the numbers that feed it. So that's why accountants make such a great partner for small businesses to bring your accounting knowledge with their knowledge of being able to make projections. Because they are really good at in a conversation being able to suss out what they think their sales might be, even in a year like the pandemic where it got confusing. And Mark, I might just ask you right now, you've done this type of work in the past with small business owners. Would you say you would find that a small business owner is pretty good at being able to make projections if they're in a collaborative working relationship with a business advisor?
To some extent. I mean, I ran my practice many, many years ago, so I'm a bit rusty now. It's a long time back in the 1990s and early 2000s. But I actually found it was quite varied. I had some clients had no idea about their business. They were usually, when it came to sales, over-optimistic. And I often found that they were underestimate what costs might be. They had a broad outline, but I found they needed some support, some guidance, some help to get them to really understand, okay, if you think you're going to hit these targets for sales, you might have to think about the impact on this cost and that cost. That was kind of my experience.
Yes, but that's exactly my experience too. But what I hear you saying is it wasn't all you having to come and just make guesses about the business. The business owner would come with information and then you would temper it, maybe in some cases, it sounds like. And that's usually how it goes. Ask questions, make sure, especially if you see sales hockey sticking like they're so wont to do. Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm going to show this next bit of information. So then we asked them, in light of this, we wanted to know what percentage of small business owners made changes to their products or services during the 2020 year. And I didn't say, but this data was collected in October of 2020. And then we took November and December to analyze the findings, and we put it all together in January, February, and then we had it available in about March. So these questions were asked in October of 2020. So we wanted to know what percentage of small business owners made changes to their products or services, and look at this overwhelming result. So what does that mean? Well, it means they need help rethinking their business model and their forecast. So what did small business owners do in response to the pandemic? They rethinking the new business idea. We asked them, though, about responses to customer demand, maybe delaying launch of a new idea, increased customer demand, possibly adapting to online sales, all things that we felt were going on, during that pandemic year. But rethinking a new business idea came in as number one. And so that means a business modeling change, and that means a forecast change. And indeed, 75% made changes to their products or services. So even after all of that, though, like I said, we always ask about confidence levels. So we wanted to know in areas of the health of their business, the stability of their industry, and whether or not they were confident they'd see growth in 2021. Where were they feeling in those areas? And we see confidence in those areas, even in a pandemic year. 56% saying they're confident in the health of their business, 71% saying they're confident in the stability of their industry, even in October of 2020. And 67% saying they're confident that they'll see growth in 2021. So then we say, okay, what services do you want from advisors? And we always ask them a variety, like a spectrum. And we sort of start with the widest scope of work being, business modeling, just an update to their business model. And then if you read down, you'll see that these things kind of get more granular. Business model update, next would come budgeting and forecasting, next would come, just cash flow management. And then we added loan eligibility in for this year because of the pandemic year. We were interested in, we asked a whole other host of questions around the PPP loan in the US and loan eligibility. So, but even in this pandemic year, and this is where this answer always falls when we ask this question, they want the biggest strategic help first, and they just go in order, and then budgeting and forecasting. And then even when you say, just cash flow management, where do you place that in comparison with these other things? You can see where it falls. So small business owners want this help. And the thing I would tell you is, even if you're not necessarily offering it in a package, or you're not speaking about it, when a small business owner engages you, they assume you're going to do some level of this. They say, great, you got it. I hired a person, they've got it. And they're going to engage me in the way that makes sense. I'm going to take their lead. That happens all the time. And I guess that I would want to know from Mark if he's experienced that, or if anyone in the audience has experienced that, where if they aren't necessarily offering this kind of work, they maybe get the sense from their clients that the clients expect it. Because I guarantee you they do. We work with enough small businesses. We hear and see and know this. Mark, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I personally don't do this sort of work now because I sold my accounting firm, but I would be interested to know what other people's experience is. So let's Kathy and I know in the chat, in the comments, tell us what your experience is. And Fran says, yes, that's exactly what happens for us as well. So that's Fran's experience. Can't see any others coming yet, but yes, Heidi Jacobson says, yes, absolutely. Clients are wanting business advisory, which is cool. And I'll let you know if any more come in.
Yeah, so that's great. I mean, that's what we see. And so then now your conundrum is, well, how do I offer that? How do I be scalable offering that? How do I offer it in a way that I can have more than one client? Because when you get into knowledge-based work like this, one client can end up sucking all your time if you accidentally let that happen. So you have to scope it right, you have to deliver it right, and you have to deliver value every month in a way that brings value to them and profit for you. And so I guess the sneak peek is we built that. We have that system, and I want to share with you quite a bit about that here today. So the next thing that I want to talk about, though, a little bit, is the difference between budgeting and forecasting. Because now we run into this question of like, well, I do budgeting. I already budget with my customers, and budgeting is something that's very familiar to accountants. It's something you learn, and when you are learning accounting, it's a very fundamental part of accounting. But it isn't going to get you there for what this work needs to be, for this strategic work. So let's just spend a minute or two talking about the difference between budgeting and forecasting, because they're very similar, but they get at a different result. So this little infographic is setting about to display the difference. In summary, a budget, first of all, in an overview, a budget is tactical and a forecast is strategic, just as a broad thing to say. But what does that mean? Well, it means that a budget, first of all, is done usually once a year and maybe updated mid-year. I've met organizations that actually attend to their budget quarterly, but it isn't traditional. A budgeting process is usually an annual process, and then, like I said, some organizations will update it mid-year. Budgets are also, they tend to be about expenses. They tend to set limits. Budgets set limits for things usually, and make sure that you're addressing your risk with the budget, because you're setting your limits for things. And they also are typically by chart of account line item, and indeed in QuickBooks, it's by chart of account line item. So in that way, a budget is a very tactical item. A forecast, on the other hand, first of all, and one other thing about a budget, it is usually just for 1 year. It's an annual process. It looks at 1 year, and that's what it attends to. And so you can't see out beyond the year, and there aren't rolling numbers that you're looking at. So you're not looking at rolling profit in a longer period of time, or cash in a longer period of time. And budgets usually aren't attending to cash. They're usually, addressing the P&L. So they're just so different, and that makes them tactical. A forecast, on the other hand, takes into account, first of all three elements: the P&L, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. And it addresses a longer period of time. So in a traditional business plan, in a formalized business plan, you'll see a forecast put together, or a pro forma, sometimes it'll be called, for 5 years. In this kind of work, this strategic planning and financial forecasting work for business advisory, I would say an 18-month to 2-year forecast is just perfect, and should be the standard. And it's meant to be that long. A forecast is also meant to be updated every month, changed every month based on the learnings that you take. So the forecast is rolling, it's happening. You are then looking at performance, every month with the business. You're taking learnings from that performance, and then you are going back to the forecast and making changes to it to help the business keep reaching its goals. So the forecast is driving the business forward. It is your roadmap. It is absolutely your financial roadmap. Every single business decision that needs to be made should be living in that forecast. And there shouldn't be a question if it's time to buy capital equipment, if it's time to hire, if unfortunately it's time to reduce staff for some reason that is happening. All of that should be modeled in the forecast and already known. And the conversation about whether or not those things should happen really within the forecast. You should have the forecast there and say, well, what if we do this? Well, let's put it in the forecast and see what will happen to our profitability and our cash. So it is a living, breathing roadmap for running that business, and no decision should be made that doesn't live in that forecast already, or isn't modeled to see what if in the forecast. So hopefully, as I say those words, you can see the difference between the forecast being strategic and a budget being tactical. And I don't want to say the word dead, but kind of. It isn't alive in the same way. It sits there. So that's the difference between a budget and a forecast. And so then you say, well, what are some options for creating forecasts? And there are, a variety, and the variety will spell out the depth of a forecast you can get and the usefulness of it. So obviously you can build forecasts in spreadsheets. It isn't easy. And especially when it's fairly straightforward to build a P&L forecast in a spreadsheet. It gets a lot more complicated when you start wanting to look at cash and balance sheet. Those are harder to build. And you have to rely on modeling for that. You have to rely on some assumptions, because if you're going out beyond, for cash, for instance, if you're trying to forecast out beyond what you know to be sitting and aging, then you don't know anything, and you have to use models to get to further months. So when you jump from spreadsheets to the next level, then you're talking about something that is traditionally called a naive forecast. And that is any kind of model. Many software applications use this idea, and it takes prior payments. It looks at prior activity, and it applies those timings to a future item. So it might look at when you paid vendors in the past, for instance, and use those timings to apply to future payments and try to model cash that way. So using past rules to model going forward. That is called naive because it's not asking about business rules that exist now, and it's not asking the business owner to put in their knowledge of what's going on. It's just trying to automate everything and taking past rules and applying to now. So it's one level. Typically what happens with that naive look is you can't get very far out because you're not modeling anything. So you get wacky rules. If you ended up paying a vendor one time in a weird way, it'll apply it now, and it starts to get weird. Then the next level up is to say, well, you're going to do full modeling using whatever application. And what I mean by that is now, instead of trying to just only take past rules and apply them to now, you will put in business rules that the small business owner has. So whatever their credit options are, their anything around AR and AP, whatever their business rules are, go into the model, and other items that define their business model that help you go out much farther. You're using business rules in that case. And then sort of one more level up from that, or one thing to consider, is the idea that this forecast has to continue. We want to iterate on it, meaning we want to come to it every month and make changes, attend to it, change it. And that's where LivePlan's Live Forecast comes in, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So that's kind of the spectrum when you think about forecasting and the decision points you would be making about how to pick a solution for forecasting. And one more just concept I want to talk about, which is actually the title of this entire session. And this is where, I'd love to have a back and forth with Mark a little bit about each of these points. I'd love to have a back and forth with all of you, actually, about each of these points. So if Mark wants to throw comments here, I can see whatever it is, because this is really the meat of what I hope you're very, very excited about. So I want to take you on this journey of a thought process about why forecasting is just the best advisory service, and why I hope you begin offering it immediately if you are not now. So we're going to read this from left to right like a book. So when you think about any advisory service, you want to think about something, you need something that you bill for monthly, regularly. You really want, if you can, to get on a subscription model, right, with your client, where you're just billing them monthly for your services in a value-based way or fixed price way, whatever you want to call it, but every month you're billing them. So you have to look for an advisory service that facilitates that. And guess what? Forecasts have to be attended to every month. They have to, or else they won't be useful. You can attend to them quarterly. That can be okay. You can have a quarterly meeting with your small business. It's not awful, but it isn't the best. The best is every month you're doing this work. So now already we have a service that fits this monthly offering. So the next step then is to say, great, now we have an idea of something that can be offered every month. And now why forecasting is the best? Well, because each month in forecasting, there's actually new value. As you're attending this forecast every month, there's new value that you're bringing to your client every month because you're addressing new problems and opportunities. So it isn't that you're doing it isn't that you're bringing them the exact same thing every month. You're actually bringing them new value because you're finding new problems to address. You're finding new business insights and new problems every month. So even though you're billing them every month, you're actually bringing them more value every month. And then the magic of what happens with forecasting is, because you're finding these new insights, those new insights feed back into the forecast and update it. And every time you do that, it makes the forecast better because you're bringing new insights and kind of new business rules, new assumptions to that model, and makes the forecast stronger and better so that every month it's smarter. And so then what happens for you? Well, you think about it, it makes your work a little easier. So the whole time your work is becoming kind of easier and more simple, you're actually bringing more value to your customer. It's amazing. So so now I'm up at this yellow circle here. As the forecast model gets more accurate and your work becomes a little more streamlined, your margin for each client is actually growing, right? Because if you think about the time you're spending, it's a little less. So that means your margins are growing, and it should mean you can bring on another client. So now we have a service that you can scale, that scales because of what it is. It just scales. So now I'm at this blue one. Each month you help your small business owner client uncover opportunities and limitations and solve problems. You're helping them stay nimble and be proactive. You are quite literally transforming their business every month. So you are becoming more efficient. Your margins are growing. You are bringing more value. You're charging a nice flat rate every time. And at the same time, you aren't bringing them nothing. You're actually helping them transform their business through your value. So it is just this win-win. And the truth is, by doing this work, your industry has the power to change a country's economy. It's true. I know that maybe I hope that doesn't sound silly to you. It is true. If everyone were doing this and everyone were building a financial forecast and managing their business to it and understanding it, the small business economy would grow. And you have the power to do that. Your industry has the power to do that. It's very cool. So in my vacuum of no responses coming, I would love to know if there's responses to any of this.
There's a couple, but I thought I'd just give a few of my thoughts, and then I'll let other people throw some stuff in. In fact, let's start with, I know Fran actually commented a little while ago. We have some questions as well, by the way, so at some point we can deal with questions, quite a few questions. So Fran said earlier, a couple of comments, this looks pretty cool. Predictive modelling is pretty tough for us in the construction / job costing industry and has to be accurate. And she went on to then say, my clients really want a job costing forecast modelling. They want to see when a job will become bad in the future. I don't know if I'll have a look for some more comments, but Heidi says, makes sense, Kathy. I think the thing I pick up on the most is, I absolutely agree that the comment that with a forecast, it's got to be a living, breathing thing. It's got to be updated every single month. And so the opportunity for us is that it creates a recurring stream of revenue. And just to give a perspective of the kind of the value, the benefit of it, is in my previous business, we did forecasting very frequently, and it was critical because being a business owner myself, doing the forecasts is when you did the forecast, that's when it would then tell you, oh right, 3 months from now we might end up having a dip in cash flow and possibly going below the overdraft facilities or running out of cash, whatever. And that then gave the opportunity to say, okay, so that could be a problem 3 months from now. What are we going to do to fix it? What can we change? What can we do to bring in more cash and solve that problem? And so having a forecast gives you a chance to, as a business owner, a chance to see what's coming and then adjust and fix for any problems. And doing that working with a third party, with an accountant, a bookkeeper, an outsider, bringing an outsider's perspective is certainly hugely valuable in helping them see what's coming and then throw around some ideas as to, well, what could we do? How can we tweak the business model? What more could we do? So that's some of my particular thoughts and a few other things that have come in. Sarah says, this is a great way of looking at how impactful we can be. Kim says, I'm doing a profit and growth expert program, and this is exactly what's needed. Working in is it I don't know how to pronounce this name, so I apologise. Working in a bank, I can tell you how vital accurate financial projections are. So thank you from a bank projection point of view. Kathy, at some point we've got some questions, so you tell me when you want to deal with questions, but you're in charge. If you want to go back to the slides, we can do that.
I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, let's do a few questions.
No, slides are boring. Let's do questions. And my next switch is to go and show some things in LivePlan, just so people know what's coming next.
Okay, cool.
After questions.
So some of these questions are a while back. Lisa did ask early on, do we get copies of the slides? So I don't know, Kathy, can we share the slides?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Do you want me to send them, Mark, to you as a PDF? Usually that's how we do when we do these kinds of events ourselves. We just send a PDF version. Yeah,
send them to Sarah, and then what she will do is, whether you're watching in Facebook or YouTube, we'll post them in a link to them in the description in the next 24 hours. Okay, so just bear in mind it's nighttime here in Portugal right now. But yeah, we'll get those from you, Kathy, and we'll just post a link to slides. So Lisa, that's the slides sorted. Next question. Kim said, I think a couple of questions actually. And I think, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was when you were talking a bit about LivePlan, says two questions. Does it incorporate personal planning as well, owners, personal assets, retirement, etc., and also what if scenarios?
Yeah, yes to both. Well, let me say this. From a planning perspective, a forecasting perspective, you can forecast anything you want in LivePlan, and you can actually build 10 forecast scenarios within each company. So you have the ability to do quite a bit on the forecast side, whatever you want. When you connect it to your accounting solution to be comparing your forecast to accounting, then you're connecting at the entity level. So it's one chart of account to one company. So you can build up to 10 forecasts and build whatever you want in those forecasts. But to do the comparison to accounting, you're connecting to one chart of accounts. If that answers.
Great, thank you. I've got a question from Keith, but I think it's a question for the group rather than you, Kathy, I believe. But I'll read it anyway, and then others could perhaps chip in. So Keith's actually in Facebook right now. I'd be interested in knowing how many of the group members are actually able to get clients, one, to prepare or want to prepare budgets, and two, to get paid for preparing them or advising. So I think that's a question for the whole group. So unless you want to comment on that, we can kind of leave it at that and see what comments come in. Keith, you might want to copy that into the VPA Facebook group as well, perhaps. Yes, Kathy?
Can I say something about that? I mean, I don't know this gentleman, so I'm going to feed in a little bit to what he's saying, but let me say this broadly. I didn't work in accounting in this way, so I don't have it in my soul, but I have witnessed what the work is. And I've, in the 6 years I've been now at Palo Alto, I've met a lot of accountants. And what I've learned and what I believe to be true after meeting lots of people is that there has to be a mind shift when you do this work. And that mind shift is you are not in service to your clients. You are now a collaborator with them. You are a co-manager almost of their business. You are their CFO conscience, if you'd like to use that word, whatever it is you want to call it, but you have to mind shift out of, it's not compliance work. So clients aren't going to come to you and say, here's my stuff for my budget. I need a budget. They're not going to do that. They're going to wait for you, expect you to take the lead and say, in my practice, we do iterative forecasting. And so what that means, Mr. Client, is that this month we're going to do this. I'm going to meet with you to learn about your business and its model. Next month, I'm going to build a forecast. Then I'm going to give you the results. And I am taking the lead. And every month we have a meeting, I have an agenda. I know what I'm here to talk to you about, and I'm collaborating with you. And I'm going to charge you for it. You're going to pay a fee. So it isn't, because it's not compliance, the clients are not going to come and ask. The unfortunate thing though, but the opportunity for you is they expect you to do it. They're just waiting. They're waiting for your lead.
Great. Thank you for that. We've still got loads of questions coming in. So just tell me, Kathy, if you want to pause some questions, but I'll keep going until you tell me. Michael says yeah, good. Very insightful. What is the best way to interact with business owners? Do you run through what if scenarios on LivePlan with clients in real time in a meeting with them?
Yes, and yes. So you start out by building the forecast the first time. You do that through a couple of meetings that pull out the information you need from them to build it. We have meeting agendas and scripting and actually a full business process, task-based business process to get you through all this work. But that you do that up front. And then now what your monthly work is you pull up the forecast every month and you look at what happened, which that's probably very much like what many of you are doing now. You're probably doing a budget to actual, I bet, every month. The problem is the budget's dead and it's by chart of account line item. It isn't strategic. It doesn't represent this rule. So you're really not getting at, in that sort of back and forth, you're not getting into the business model enough to really be very effectual. So when you do it this other way, now you've got a living, breathing forecast. You can go in and attend to things like cash assumptions, which has to do with their business rules, other things. And yes, you're doing it in real time with the client, pulling up, and I'll show you when we get to LivePlan what that's like.
Okay. I think the next question we've kind of really answered, but I'll pull it up anyway. So Parul said, if a customer has to choose one of the two, budgeting and forecasting, to be done by us, the accountants, which one would you recommend due to time and fee constraints? Which would we do, the budgeting or the forecasting? There's a forecasting because it's strategic and yes.
Yeah, and the truth is when you have a working forecast, you've got a budget. It's the same thing. I mean, I wasn't an accountant. I'm not an accountant, but I do this work. In fact, I do it right now with organizations as well as the job that I have right now. And I'll tell you an anecdotal. It's a real story. It's an anecdote, but it's true. I joined this nonprofit about 3 or 4 years ago to help them do this work. The board recognized they needed this kind of work. They were really growing. They were actually switching from a model where they were fully grant funded to a model where they could do some billing through medical billings, and they would get some unrestricted funds out of that. So they really, their business model was shifting, and they knew they were going to be growing, and they knew they had to do this kind of work. So I joined the board. At that time, they had a budgeting process that was very, very formal because they were running on about 8 federal grants. So the budgeting process is very formal, and they have an annual audit. So they don't have nothing. They have really lovely accounting controls in place. But they weren't doing forecasting. And so I, of course, because this is my background, came sweeping in and said, well, you don't need to be doing that budgeting. We're just going to do this forecast because this will be the thing. Well, that I tried to change things too fast 3 years ago when I came in. But we kept the budgeting process. So we just kept doing an annual budget. But we put everything in LivePlan and we began this process of this iterative forecasting. And so fast forward now 3.5 years later, we still do a formal budgeting process, but it really is just almost to check a box for the board. Our budget really is just simply the working forecast that we keep. And the budgeting process is so much faster now every year because we're doing it every month. We have a working forecast. So that just feeds a formalized budgeting process. And because LivePlan holds 10, what we do is keep the approved budget. We just hold that in a forecast scenario and just let that be. And then we have the working forecast that we iterate on every month. So hopefully that's an example of what that is and how that works.
Yeah, really useful that. We've still got questions coming in. We've got let's do about 5 or 6 more questions, then we'll get into a bit more content, and then we'll pick up some more in a bit. This one's quite a long one, so bear with me a second. It's from Shirley. She says there are not a lot of changes each month in small businesses. That's, I guess, her experience. Do you recommend quarterly with those until they start building up, where telling them monthly would be better? I can see some of mine doing it monthly with basically no real changes. They would end up wanting the service. I think what she's saying is it okay to start doing forecasting as a quarterly service and then change it to perhaps to monthly?
Yeah, I understand the question. I would say it depends. Let me answer it this way. When you are thinking about that idea through the lens of not much changes every month, because I don't see a whole lot of change in the statements every month, probably. I don't see the expenses are probably pretty flat every month. They know what the revenues are. There are not a lot of changes. So why would I be meeting monthly? Because the financial statements don't look much different. I would use as an example of this idea of compliance work versus knowledge value-based work. There might not be a lot of changes to the financial statements, but I guarantee you that there are a lot of things going through that small business owner's head. And so and that means opportunities for growth. So again, your role really isn't to translate financial information only. That's one little tiny piece of your role. The other big part of your role is to understand what's going on in their heads. What are their worries, fears, what keeps them up at night, and how do those translate to business opportunities? And how can you pull that out of their heads, get it in the forecast, and make it a reality? That's what your job is. So I guarantee you that every month that's happening. There's opportunity for that. And that is actually what they're paying you for. They're not paying you really to translate the numbers for them. It's part of it. I understand that. But the value, the reason you can charge thousands of dollars a month is the latter thing, the knowledge thing, not the translating numbers thing. Because the truth is, an automated system could do that. Anybody could build an AI system that just tells them what the numbers mean. That's not what they need help in. They need help in pulling out of their heads these goals that they have, these opportunities, these things that could become opportunities, these limitations, these blockers, these things that keep them up at night. What are those things? And how do you translate that into a financial roadmap that can become a reality? That's what you're being paid for. And that happens every month.
Okay, there's a couple of questions from Lisa from the UK. So I'll deal with them both back to back. The first one I can perhaps address, and then we'll ask the second one, and then I'll bring Kathy in. So Lisa's first question is, part A is, Mark, do you or will you teach forecasting as well? I'm a bookkeeper, so I've never learnt this. So Lisa, I forget now, are you in the Value Pricing Academy? I have in the Value Pricing Academy, I have the 6-month training program on how to profit from business advisory, where I go deep on how to do the business advisory piece, and Kathy does some training inside that. So those of you in the Value Pricing Academy, check out the how to profit from business advisory, and you'll get training from me and also great training from Kathy. And if it doesn't answer your questions, you can then reach out to us and we'll help you further. Now, Lisa then went on to say, so let me just pull it up, and it's kind of, I think we've sort of answered it, but let's just clarify. What is the purpose of forecasting, and how would you present it to customers?
Yeah, let's answer that when we go over to LivePlan. That's the next thing I want to show.
Perfect. Okay, well, we'll get onto that in a second then. So let me just do a couple more quick ones then. I think this is a quick one, and I think you'll understand it. Kim says, can you import from an Excel for outside information? I'm guessing that's importing into LivePlan, would that be?
Yeah. At this time in LivePlan, we don't import from Excel, but I will say we recognize the value of that, especially for accountants who want to do this work, and that is on our roadmap. The reason we don't now is that for our small business owners, that's not a thing that's useful for them. They get wrapped around it, and we never addressed it for accountants who are savvy in Excel and can do it, and we will be doing that.
Okay, awesome. Last question I'll ask for now, and then we'll get it because it leads kind of into what you're going to cover next. Is Antonio says, oh, I've just got rid of it. Let me just find it again. Antonio, I'll remember it. She says, is there a recommended software for doing this work, e.g. Excel? That was the question. I just lost it, but that was the question. And I think in this, just heads up, I guess you'll be a little bit biased here that you'll say LivePlan. There are lots of other great software tools, but the reason I work with Kathy is because so many people say over and over again that LivePlan is one of, if not the most comprehensive forecasting and tools for helping you with advisory work. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Kathy, or whether you want to just go straight into what you want to show next.
Yeah, let me do that. And I just will say, I don't know if the folks can see my slides or not, but I switched back to this slide that puts the types of forecast into different buckets. I just would say, when you think about forecasting, and I'm going to show you LivePlan, when you think about forecasting, these top three spreadsheets versus naive forecast versus modeling, that's kind of the separation of the different types of ways you can do forecasting and the apps to do it. So spreadsheets where you build everything by hand, naive forecasting is kind of the next level up, and then modeling is the next level up from that, and LivePlan fits into that modeling category. So I'd say if you evaluate apps through that lens, it will help you. And I can tell you the list of other products that kind of fit in this space if that's helpful, but they're pretty easy to find. If you're using QuickBooks, you can go to that QuickBooks app store and search by forecast and see everyone who's there. It's probably the best. So why don't I show you a little of this so you can understand what I mean when I say we're going to show these forecasts, we're going to show our customers in real time, we're going to do this modeling. Let me just show you what I mean. And so Mark, are they still seeing my screen? I guess they are. So I'm going to
yes, so they saw your slides. I've just flicked back, but yes.
Okay. So you should be seeing LivePlan now. And I've brought you right into the forecast. Sorry, there was a message there that distracted me. When you're sharing a LivePlan forecast with someone else and they update it, it gives you this little yellow message. The forecast has been updated. So that means that my coworker is in this forecast right now making updates and changes to it. So that's kind of cool, and that would happen for you if you shared the forecast with someone else. So we'll let that just go. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I've brought you right into the LivePlan's forecast tab. There are a few tabs here, and let me just orient you to the scope of LivePlan before I show you the forecast and kind of how you would use it in real time with the customer. So that, let me just zoom out for just a minute. Because the reason this product is so good for doing this work is you can zoom in to do some pretty strategic, really almost tactical work, very specific work, and you can zoom way out to do big strategic planning. And you also, because of the way the product is designed, can have a formalized business plan at the ready for a small business, almost in your back pocket if they ever need it. And what I mean by that is the full written business plan, the formalized version that would go to a bank or an investor or a lender. So you've got in LivePlan this wide spectrum of types of work you can do. And because at the heart of all those types of work is the forecast, it makes you so scalable. So you're keeping this forecast, you're tending to it, you're doing the work with the client every month, you're managing profit and cash. And if that client ever says, gosh, I need to get in front of an investor or a lender, or you and your work with them every month, the two of you maybe come to a decision that, it's time to go to a bank for a loan, or you need to get in front of an investor, you really can just click one tab in LivePlan, come over, add the whatever words are needed, add whatever images, and LivePlan will compile a formalized, I'll show you this option, a formalized business plan that you can download and print in a PDF or export to Word. You can set it up with themes here. So it really, this is at the ready, and you should consider this as a service offering that you would be doing forecasting every month, and you also could charge a one-time flat fee, for a business plan should they need it. But it's all here. You're already there. You don't have to go to Word, create new things, do whatever. It's all here. So that's in the plan tab. The pitch tab over here is the place where you actually start with your small business. This is when I remember a little bit ago in this conversation, we were talking about you would have a couple meetings with the customer to get out of them the information you need to build the forecast. You do that actually in the pitch tab. and you go through this little process of having a conversation, the subject items of the conversation are these. You're going to go through their problems they're solving, their solutions, their target market, their sales channels and marketing activities. These various business elements that bring together the things you need to build the forecast. You're going to do that in a conversation, and then you end up with this lovely one sheet that they can then use. So that's happening over here in these other tabs. I'm hovering around the forecast because I'm going to land at the forecast, but I just want you to understand the scope of this. And then beyond the forecast, we offer benchmarks. That becomes part of your regular meeting with a customer. I'll give you a quick preview of this, and then when I show you kind of what the work looks like, I'll come back to to benchmarks. So our benchmarks are a collection of metrics that are offered through SageWorks ProfitSense product. We license the ProfitSense benchmarking data, and we display it here in the benchmark column. And then you pick by NAICS code and by region. For the group here, I will say that these are US only benchmarks at this time. We don't offer benchmarks from other countries. It's wrapped around NAICS code, and so that is how it is. And then the dashboard, I'm going to get to the dashboard when I talk about what the work looks like. So the tabs are the pitch, where you do the big ideating, the plan, where the business plan would come together, the forecast I'm going to show you in a minute, benchmarks, a milestone schedule, and the dashboard where the accounting data comes in. So let's talk about this forecast, and especially to the question of, do you do this in real time with a customer, and the idea of what this work really looks and feels like. Because yes, you absolutely do this in real time with a customer in your meeting. You pull this up, share it with them, however you meet with them, whether it be virtual or face-to-face, you have this up and you're looking at it together. So this forecast now has been built. Oh, and you know what I didn't show you? I do want to introduce you to our small business owner. That was what was next. So apologies, let me do that, because that will seed this a little bit better for you. So this is our small business sweat equity. And this is our pretend small business owner. This is Shauna. So please meet Shauna. She's the owner of Sweat Equity. Shauna is, we have a full persona built out for Shauna, and we think about Shauna's needs a lot at LivePlan, because what Shauna needs to be in LivePlan. And that's important for you as an advisor, because it means that LivePlan is going to present information and gather information and look at information through the lens of what the small business owner needs, which makes your job as an advisor so much easier. You don't want to be living in apps all the time that are only for accountants, because they're too complicated for a small business owner. It's too much. So in LivePlan, you've got a product that is thinking about what a small business owner wants to see and how they think every day, because that's how we build products. So Shauna is a former track and field college athlete. She graduated from a college cum laude, actually. She's a smart individual. She worked as a communications director in a big town for a while, but decided at some point she wanted to return to her college town for family reasons. And there wasn't a communications director job for her, and she knew she'd have to make a career shift. So she opened a gym in 2014, and she's been running this gym in her college town since 2014 with the goal of being the premier gym in town. And so that's who she is and how long she's been in business. And this is a little bit about what happened to Shauna this year, coming out of COVID and coming into this year. She obviously struggled in 2020. And she came into January and, rebuilt her forecast entirely to deal with coming out of the pandemic year. In January, she had a partial reopen. In February, and really the theme of this is she just kept slowly opening. But as we've worked with Shauna over the course of every month, we evolve her story through numbers and think about what might be going on with a gym like this, and we put it into the demo that you're about to see. So in January, she had a partial reopen. In February, she was able to open a little of her indoor gym. In March, she saw her revenue stabilize a little. In April, she was able to add back childcare, which went away during pandemic. In May, she had an issue with her personal trainers, and so she had to deal with that. And in June now, where we are, she's ready for a full reopen and to retain and hire back her personal trainers. So, and she's getting ready for a full reopen. So to the person who said not a lot goes on, with a small business owner every month, first of all, right now, so much is going on because small businesses are still trying to figure out their footing after this pandemic year. And also, things like this in May are a great example of how you might not think things are going on, but for Shauna, unbeknownst to her advisor, for Shauna in her business, she was having a little coup going on with her staff where her personal trainers were revolting and wanting a contract renegotiation. And we wouldn't have known that had we not met with her and attended to this. So I think that hopefully is a concrete example of why I'm meeting every month. So much is going on all the time. And you're wanting to look for opportunities. How do we know what we should put into our marketing budget if we don't talk to her and know what she needs? What are her opportunities to go forward? So this is her and what's happened to her. So now let's go to LivePlan and let you see that. So now I'm in the forecast and I'm going to open it up into full screen and let you see not from that view, sorry. I'm going to click on the profit and loss here. You can see the collection of financial statements here, profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow. And now I'm going to put it into full screen so you can see the full forecast. And I have the view I've set is to open up the revenue line so you can see what they are so you can get a sense of her business. But I've kept the other lines grouped up. But, under direct costs, you would see other things. I've kept that grouped up because I don't want to get too in the weeds with this. But her operating expenses are these. But I thought you could get a sense of her business by looking at her revenue streams. So she has these revenue streams: membership dues, personal training, fitness classes. She has membership extras like locker rentals and things. She has childcare income. She has event income, which you can see went to zero because of shutdowns. She has a catering business, which also went to zero because of shutdowns. And she has a cafe and gift shop. And prior to the pandemic, these events and catering were a substantial part of her business. They were foundational to her revenue. But during COVID, she had to shut those things down. So she had to make a business model change, much like the people that we asked, remember in the data that I showed you at the beginning of this talk. Those small businesses were making a shift in their business model, where she did too. And her shift was that she had to rely on personal trainers more. And what she did was have one-on-one sessions because she was able, through the pandemic rules, to do that. So she teamed up a personal trainer with a member, and she had these one-on-one sessions and she was charging for that. Sometimes the trainer would go to their house, sometimes they would come to the gym, but that she was facilitating that through the gym. And that was her business model change. And she did that. And you can see that in January and in February and even in March, that revenue is higher. It decreases as the year goes on because she's trying to bring that back down. And she's trying to bring back up this event space and this catering. So that is an example of how this forecast every month, we're going to be looking at the performance of these items and making adjustments every month to this forecast to keep moving forward on that plan. So let me show you how that would work. Well, let me actually pause and ask Mark if there are any questions up to this point about any of this.
Oh, you're going to regret that. There's a lot of questions. There's loads of questions. Millions of them. Do you want to go through questions now?
Why don't you give me three of the best ones, and then I'll keep going because I bet my keeping going will answer some of the questions.
Oh, that's putting pressure on me. The best ones. Okay.
Three that you like.
Well, there's so many. Let's look at, okay. So Parul says, I know he's got a couple of questions, but one is, what are the forecasting plan exporting options in this software? Does it support Excel exporting?
Okay. Yeah, both importing and exporting to Excel are not something that LivePlan does at this moment. But for advisors, that is something that's on our roadmap. We recognize the value of that. But what I would say, though, is that what we always want to understand is what you want to do over in Excel, because we'd like to have that experience be in LivePlan. We believe that you can do this work right in LivePlan, and you can have these conversations with customers right in LivePlan, and it should attend to the modeling that you need to attend to.
Okay, Fran said, what is the deliverable that we give the client? Charts and graphs, nice reports, templates, auto report grouping.
Got it. I love that question, and I'm going to get to that as I show you this work. That's
Perfect.
a great question.
Okay, there was, Mars asked a question. What are the industries you offer benchmark? Where can they be seen?
They're by NAICS. They're by US NAICS code. So any NAICS code is in the benchmarking tab, and you just search it and find it by NAICS code.
Okay, awesome. We've got loads more, but we'll go back to.
Yeah, let me show you what I would do with Shauna every month, and what I would do with Shauna will show what the deliverable is. As you do this work over time, the deliverables change a little. In the beginning, your deliverable, when you're starting with a client and you're building the forecast for the first time, your deliverable is actually that business one sheet that from the pitch tab that I showed you. You have a planning meeting, and then you have a completed one sheet, and now you have this deliverable. And it's a lovely offering, because not only can they print it, they can use it online. It actually exports into a PowerPoint, so they can have one meeting with you, put some information in LivePlan, and they have this lovely deliverable. After you've built the forecast, now your monthly deliverable is both a combination of performance data coming out of our dashboard and this working session you would do around the forecast. So let me show you that. So working with Shauna, I would say, I understand what her forecast looks like now. I understand how it's built. I've worked with her every month. I know where she's come from. I know what she's trying to do. She's trying to reopen. So what I want to do, though, is have her forecast be updated, trued up in the best sense compared to her actuals. So I'm going to close this big view and go back to the main forecast. And I'm going to click this tab that says Live Forecast, because what that will do is truly make her forecast alive and bring in actuals. So one more time, I'm going to turn it off. And when I turn it on, watch all the past months, January, February, March, April, May, and watch the column headers change. Do you see how they change? So I'm going to come back to the full screen and show you what happened. Now I've got actuals here for these past months. And when I'm working with Shauna in my monthly meeting, I'm going to have the live forecast view turned on, because now right in the forecast, I'll open these up and you can see. I'll just open up these 2 months because we don't need to go through every month of this. But you can see what it does. It brings the actual in against the forecast and shows the net change. So now in real time with Shauna, the work that I'm doing in my meeting is to say, all right, let's see how you did against forecast and talk about any areas where there are room for improvement or adjustments. And mostly let's attend to your profitability and your cash going forward and look at business opportunities and make sure we're not missing anything. So for Shauna, I would go, if I'm in June, let's pretend I'm in June, I'm having this June meeting. I would have already had the meetings for January through April, so I wouldn't necessarily need to look at those. I would mostly look at May when I'm looking line by line at performance. And I'm going to see, for instance, she's beating her membership dues and she's beating her personal training. She's not forecast to open up free events or catering yet, so that's okay. She's forecast to do that in July. I would be asking Shauna about her performance in these areas. For instance, the fitness classes you doubled. Tell me, Shauna, about that. Why did you double that? And as her advisor, I might already know, maybe because I've talked to her before, but maybe I don't. Maybe something happened in this month where that's interesting that she doubled. And is that a business opportunity that we want to attend to? So the conversation becomes just a little bit about what the numbers are, but mostly what the opportunity is going forward. That's what you're really there to do. So where do I see the changes? And when I find one, all right, Shauna, tell me what's going on. I want to understand about these fitness classes. Why did they double? What's going on? Is this a business opportunity or is it an anomaly? Or did we set our goal too low? Because if we did, we need to adjust that goal, because that will matter for our future profitability. We want our profit forecast to be as accurate as possible, because you're making a lot of decisions based on that. So if you're doubling a number, let's get that forecast right. Or was it a business anomaly? So the deliverable to the client is so much more about the conversation than it is about the report. There is a report, and I'll show you that in a minute, but it really is the conversation that you're having. So you go line by line, you look at these things. I would open up direct costs, I would ask. But eventually, once you get through enough of the opportunities or the limitations that are going on, and you attend to what's going on in your business, what are the opportunities, you get down to the important bottom line number, which is rolling cash and future profitability. So to do that, you're going to scroll. LivePlan offers two places. Here you can see cash. We bring cash into this view because it's fundamental to this conversation, is what is cash position. So we bring that right into this view, and we say, all right, I can see how you're doing with cash actual all the way up to this month. We blend the forecast with it, and now I get a live look at rolling cash, and I can scroll across, and I can see her cash, what her forecasted cash position is over time. And then profitability too. I can see an adjustment for profit, and I can see that with live forecast turned on, she is forecast to be 1% profitable in 2021 and just eke into the end of 2021 with $12,000 in cash. And you can see she's still burning through it. And it's because she's not profitable in these months. So it is the story of a business that's trying to pull itself up out of the pandemic. And that's okay. That can be normal, but we want to manage to it, because with that level of profit that you're just squeaking by and you're still eating into cash to get through. Now you can see if we go forward into 2022, she picks back up and she's going to be okay. But our work with her is to deeply understand what's going on in these months that we're planning. What is our plan for these months? And can she meet that plan? Does she feel good about that plan? Every month we're asking, because that's a squeaker, right? And she may need to take out a loan if she can't meet that plan. And that's what we're doing with her every month. And as we take learnings and make changes, and as we take learnings with Shauna and learn about her business and learn what her opportunities are, we are coming in real time with her every month and making changes to these line items to account for that. So if she said with fitness classes, yeah, I see growth there, I feel good about, what I see happening, and I think we can adjust the sales projection to be higher. Or I see pullback in my expenses, I need to adjust that. Whatever the changes are you're making, you make those in real time, because what you're really doing is monitoring this go forward so that you can manage to this 1% and this cash. Does that make sense about the work in the forecast? That's what it is. So you're constantly just looking, making nudges, changes, and monitoring this rolling profit and cash. And then on the dashboard, sorry, Mark, let me just show this dashboard and then we'll answer questions about all of it. Because there's really two places where numbers are there's really three places where numbers are happening in LivePlan. The forecast is the blended look of what happened versus where we're headed. The dashboard is a nice place to start with a client, and it's the place where sort of the report is built that would be the deliverable. The dashboard is where we connect LivePlan to the accounting solution, and you map the forecast to the accounting data, and now we have that tie. And it breaks data down by these charts. So what you would do with a client every month is is come to the dashboard, set it to the right month. So I might be looking at May's performance, for instance, versus forecast. I can start here by looking at whatever charts I like, and then I can build a report for them. By selecting edit, I can put my summary here, whatever my notes are. I'm going to meet with you, blah, 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 and we're going to talk about these things. So here's your summary. You can pick whatever charts, and then you prepare this PDF, and then you send that to the client. That's your deliverable for the month. You can also print the forecast and include with that if you'd like. So you'd say, boop, here's my report for the month. Set a calendar link, meet with me. We're going to have a real-time conversation about your profitability and cash. So there's that deliverable. You can set up whatever charts you like. But then really when you meet with them, the real deliverable is the conversation and what comes out of that conversation and the adjustment to their forecast. That's really the value that's going on. But you use the dashboard to have those conversations about performance metrics. And then you use the benchmarks as well in your meetings with them to have another look. The benchmarks say, well, let's look at how you're doing in your actual results and your forecasted results against benchmark in your industry. It's another way to look at numbers. It's just yet another look. It's another tool in your toolbox as an advisor. And we blend all of this into our meeting agenda. So we've developed a full meeting agenda with even scripting in there to get you through the plan meeting and the monthly advisory meetings that bring all of this together and show you how to do it. And I would like, before we're done, to show you a little peek at some of those resources. Because what we've said at LivePlan, I'm sorry, I'm at home. What we've said at LivePlan, what we know is that this work is new for accountants. It can be a lot, and you have to bring it all together into a system. And so we've done that. We have a business process, meeting agendas and scripts, all these things that you use in combination with LivePlan to deliver this every month. So Mark, I take a couple more questions, and then I want to show a couple of these resources and let them know a little more stuff.
Okay, well, actually, what I was thinking of doing is, first of all, just a couple of comments. So Parul said, very scientifically explained, Kathy. So thanks for that feedback, Parul. I'm not sure what the real name is, but SEL, it says, I've been a LivePlan subscriber for a couple of years, but have used it only for developing the business plan. Thank you for reopening my eyes to the rest of its functionality. So that's cool. We have loads of questions, Kathy, but what I was thinking, so that we don't run out of time, you've got a big event coming up soon. So do you want to tell us about that event? And then we'll wrap up and just answer as many questions as we can in the remaining time.
Yes, I would love to tell you about that event. I'm going to show you this little agenda. So if you want to put it back to slides, because I think slides are the best way to show this. I can also show the page, the landing page for the event. But so we have a ton of resources for you to learn to do this work and to actually use in your firm in conjunction with LivePlan to deliver this. Those resources exist. Some of them are free when you sign up for LivePlan for a 90-day free trial. Others of them, if you want to go really deep, are in an online learning platform that we have. In addition to that, we know that because this is big work, a live training event is really, really useful. So twice a year, we offer a 3 to 4 day, the fourth day is a bonus, event where you come with other people and learn with us in real time. And we really take it way beyond our training resources. We do so much in these days. So this is a snapshot agenda of what is going to happen on these days, the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 1st. On day one, we're going to talk all about that planning meeting and how you have these conversations with customers to get out of them the information that you need. We will do that in terms of teaching. We will also do that in terms of having advisors come and show examples, real examples from real meetings. I believe that this day one is so foundational to everything. How do you have the conversation? How do you get out of the client what you need without having that conversation last 5 hours? How do you get out just enough? And how does the forecast evolve over time? Because it really does. You're not going to build a forecast in the first month and have that be the one. That's just not how it goes. It evolves over time. So day 1 is that. Day 2 then is forecasting. You will re-meet sweat equity, but you will have a sweat equity version in your own LivePlan account, and you will work in small groups to work in that forecast. You're going to build a forecast. We're going to break it. You're going to build it again. You're going to do a sample advisory meeting. All of that's going to happen on day 2. Day 3, we're going to help you with packaging, marketing, and selling. On day 3 in the morning, Mark Wickersham is going to come and talk at 9 o'clock about value pricing. And then we will show you the bundles that we suggest you build to offer to your customers for this work. And in the afternoon, our digital marketing team is coming to teach you about digital marketing. It's fantastic. And you will actually have a small group workshop on digital marketing. And then on day 4, and this is really exciting, because this work is so big, it's such a big opportunity for you and it covers so much, we team up with other apps that shake hands with it. So for instance, I said we have a business process. We team up with Aero Jetpack Carbon, and you can find our business process in those apps. We team up with effective pricing for the value pricing piece. There's a template in value pricing to find this. Same with Practice Ignition. If you're using that to offer packages, you can find our template there. So on day 4, we're having those apps come and share. So that's boot camp. And we have a special offer for Mark's listeners of 20% off. So if you use here, you see this Wickersham 20 code. Oh, you don't, because my face is there. Oh, shoot. Mark, can you move my bubble down? There we go. So Wickersham 20 is the promo code, and let me show you where the page is. So all you have to do is Google LivePlan Bootcamp, and that ought to come up with our page. Oh, well, maybe it's not that easy. Well, don't I look like a silly person? Is this it? No. Here, let me just get the real page. I'm sorry, this is silly. Here it is. Mark, maybe I'm clicking it, and maybe you can throw this.
Yeah, Sarah's going to put the links into the various places. In fact, I think Sarah's already done that in Facebook. She's put the link in there and the coupon code as well, and she'll do it in the YouTube group. She's done it already, so it should be in the comments for people.
Great. Yeah, here is the whole thing. You can register here. The other thing is if bootcamp doesn't feel like your cup of tea, or if you don't have that time, whatever, if you sign up for a 90-day free trial of LivePlan, you do that here. LivePlan.com accountants. Here's where you sign up for a free trial. We offer a 90-day free trial, 90 days. And that's so that you have time to learn. So that's definitely an option. We will send you a few of our resources, about 5 of them, to get you started. And you'll have a one-on-one onboarding experience with our customer success person. So absolutely don't feel like bootcamp is your only option. It isn't, but it is a really cool experience. And there's 18 CPE at bootcamp for those of you who need CPE. So now I can take other questions, or do, Mark, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, awesome. We've got about 10 minutes left, so let's do as many questions as we can. And just to clarify, Sarah has put all the links into the comments, so hopefully you can see those. If not, just put a comment. She's watching the both Facebook and YouTube, and we'll get the links to you as soon as we can. Fran says, do accountants get wholesale pricing?
Well, yeah, I mean, our accountant pricing is much cheaper than our small business pricing. Here, I'll show you. Our accountant pricing, it's annual. So we represent it here in terms of per month, but it is actually an annual price. So we charge you $180 per year per company. So the reason you see it this way, and the math maybe doesn't make sense, is we start you with 4 companies through our program. This program for accountant advisors assumes that you have clients and you're wanting to go to scale and do this work. So we start you with 4 licenses, and it's $180 per year per license. For a small business, it would be much more.
Great. And there's a couple of related questions which we may have probably covered, but I'll just see if you want to add to them. So I'll ask both questions because they're similar. Shirley said, once the client sees that we're using LivePlan to do this, they can go direct and use / pay for LivePlan themselves and go to you. And just a similar...
Go ahead.
Yeah. How can you stop them from bypassing you? So I guess the same question.
The problem is, they won't. We've done this so much that we see it happen every time. They won't. They need you. They will not do this work. They will maybe build a forecast. Maybe they'll build a forecast. First of all, they don't really know how. They don't really understand. They don't understand their P&L enough to do it. They just don't. And they can't make it seem like you can. So, and they won't take the time. So that's the two things happening. Like, they don't have the foundational knowledge to really build the forecast in the way you can. Like Mark was saying at the beginning of the hour, his experience was that the small business owner would over project their sales and under project their expenses maybe, or whatever. They know a lot about their business, but they need your knowledge to help make it more real, help make the numbers, I guess, better, more accurate, judged right. And then the other big piece, and it's actually the bigger piece, is they will not take the time. Because we're talking about micro businesses. We're not even talking about small businesses in the sense of, what's a true small business to the SBA? It's like 500 million or something a year. We're talking about micro businesses. These people are tradespeople that wear a billion hats, and they don't have time. They won't take the time. And if they have the choice between running their business, which is attending to their customers at the gym, or if they're a barber cutting hair, whatever it is, it's their trade. If they have a choice between that and attending to their forecast, they're going to pick the trade, because they didn't go into this business to be a business person. That they don't have that. They need you. And so I promise you, they won't bypass you. If you are coming every month and saying, let me show you what your forecasted cash is, let me show you what your forecasted profit is, they will come to that meeting and they will pay you to be their guide every month.
Great answer. Okay, we've got, let's get a couple of quick ones which we actually dealt with. So, but I'll just want to acknowledge them. So Sarah did say, what website is this, a long time ago? That's the LivePlan we've been talking about. So I think you've answered the question. And Parul said, how much does the LivePlan membership cost? You've answered that one now already, but if anyone's got any more questions about that, then reach out to us. We'll answer those. Sarah Kelly, again, I think we've covered this one, but just in case you want to add to it, Sarah said, what kind of training and or certifications does LivePlan offer for accountants, bookkeepers, advisors? And you've got the boot camp coming up. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so we offer training in a few ways because we know everybody's different and everybody has different time constraints and different things. So during our 90-day free trial, you will have a one-on-one customer success person. They will onboard you to LivePlan, they'll work with you. That just comes with it. If you like online training and that's your thing, then I don't know if you can see my screen, but on our website is an online training tab. And we have an online training platform, and you can consume the resources, and it's video guided and you can go through it. And we charge for that. There's a fee for that because we bring you all these resources. And then in addition to online training, in a bigger way, is boot camp. So it's like you sort of pick the level of training that you would like. And there is certification through our online training program. And we also have a directory, which I didn't even talk about, but we have an online directory that we display to our small business customers where they can find you. Listen, our goal is to say, we've got this product. We know small business owners need help. And what we really want to do is connect our ecosystem of small business users to an ecosystem of accountant advisors who can take them farther, because we know they need it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, we've answered, I think, John Mannix asked when's the boot camp, but I think that's been answered now. And Sarah also put the dates into the chat, so that was that. And John also asked, because he came late. You were late, John. Is it being recorded? Yes, it's live streaming to the YouTube, my YouTube channel right at the moment. So if you've missed the start, John, you can go back and watch it. We will probably keep it live for at least a week, so you can catch up again on the beginning. Okay, let's move on. Rennie Evans from the UK. Rennie said earlier, are you planning on updating the industry benchmarks for the UK as well?
That is something we would love to do. It would involve, for us, the problem is that they revolve around US NAICS code. And so it involves changing more. It's a harder change because there isn't the NAICS code in the UK. So that's kind of what's stopping us. It involves a form change. But we see the value there, and it is something, it's not on our immediate roadmap, but we understand the need for it, I guess. That's the best way to answer it.
Okay, awesome. We've got 3 minutes left, and we'll wrap it up. So let's deal with a couple more. I've got so many questions, actually. Let's look at Lisa's question. As it enters the actuals, does the LivePlan automatically update the future forecast, or is this a manual process?
Yeah, once the forecast is built, now you've got a working model. And so now you've just got numbers running. And once I hit live forecast, the updates flow through. Yes, that's all happening. The forecast build is something that you build for the first time. You do that either manually, or you can start with accounting data. There's a little flow within LivePlan to start a forecast using last year's accounting actuals. So it'll get you going that way.
Okay, great. Heidi said that Joey's provided a way for her to look at the sample LP to show them new prospective clients. But will there be a demo LP available for accountants, much like QBO offers us a free sample?
Our demo is this sweat equity company. So Joey is our accountant's education person, and so he can put a copy of sweat equity in your account. It's not a live connection. We put a copy, so we'd have to every once in a while give you a new copy of that.
Okay. Nancy says, does the LivePlan have reports that go down to the department class level?
We do report by class. We don't at the moment forecast by class, but we do. The dashboard will report by class. And the dashboard, there's a bunch of stuff in the dashboard I didn't have time to show, but we recompile all the financial statements there and have a really cool look at them in the dashboard.
Great. Challenging question, this next one. I'm not sure who the person's real name is. Mighty Cruise Ship Experience. What is the minimum size of business that wants budgeting and forecasting? Any thoughts on size of business?
Well, do they have cash? Do they have a running cash balance, and do they have profitability to attend to? I mean, anybody needs a budget and a forecast. But what we find is once they get to $300,000-$400,000, then they can afford to hire. They're looking to hire somebody for that help.
Okay, so I thought we got through the questions, but a few more sneaked in as well. Let me just see. Diane says, how long does it take to become LivePlan certified, and how much?
Our online training program takes about 4 hours, and I don't remember the cost for it, but I think it's $450. Well, here. Let's see. Buy now. It's this one. LivePlan Method Advisory. Buy now. Yep, $500. And so with that, you get a bazillion resources, and then the exam is in there.
Okay, let's do a final question, I think, from Parul. It's a pricing one, so I could probably answer this as well. But what's the average monthly basis accountants, bookkeepers charge to his customers for these projections? What's your general experience?
Yeah, I have actually a slide that spells that out. But so we teach 4 bundles, that we worked with Mark actually to build. And we see a range in those 4 bundles between about $300 a month on the very low end, which is nothing more than reporting. You're just connecting LivePlan. You're not doing any forecasting on that low one, just reporting. So about $300 a month, up to about $2,000 a month, and up for the full forecasting. Basically, what I showed you that we would be doing with Shauna.
Wonderful. I think we'll wrap up here at this point, Kathy, because we've got to the hour and a half mark. Are there any final comments you want to add, Kathy, before we wrap up?
I don't want to keep these people longer than they want to be. I just hope they explore this. This is such a value for small businesses. They need it. It's a scalable item for you. Just I hope you do it. And the work is so fun. It's so fun to bring small business customers insights and help them. Just help them. They need help.
Absolutely. So my final comments by way of wrapping up are, if you do think of any more questions, then if you stick them in the comments, we can let Kathy know if and point her out if there's any questions that we can forward on. If you've enjoyed this, by the way, if it's been good, please just click that thumbs up button to say you've liked it, whether you're in YouTube or Facebook. Just click the like button if you've had some value today. It'll tell us whether these sessions are useful to you. Kathy, you want to say something, I think?
I'm so sorry. Could I just say one more thing to the person who asked about certification? You don't have to be certified to use LivePlan, be in our ecosystem. That is not a requirement. That's only if certification is a path you like. You don't have to do that. I just wanted to clarify that. You can get a free trial of LivePlan, be trained by us, and get going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy. That's been great. Loads of value there. And so if you're coming to the bootcamp, I will be there. I'm doing a couple of sessions, one of those showing you how to price and one showing you how to use effective pricing to price advisory work. So thank you for coming along. As usual, I'll play out with a bit of music. If you think of any more questions, just stick them in the comments and I'll pass them on to Kathy. Have a great rest of the day. I will see you soon. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on some